Hello, today we'll be talking about the first principle of drama, that is AHIMSA. This means non-harm, by word, thought, or action. Now, what is harm? From the yogic point of view, all living beings move from imperfection to perfection. That is, reincarnation takes place, and beings are born in more and more perfect forms. Every being strives for its own development. And harm is when we stop this development for a while. For example, if there is a hen running around, living its life, a life filled with its own chicken-related events and developments, and then suddenly we kill it. And now, until it is reborn, its progress has been stopped. So with this action, we have brought her harm. But can we bring no harm at all to this world? No. Fortunately or unfortunately, we live in a world where life is such that each breath we take is already killing millions of bacteria at the very least. The same happens when we filter our water. Conscious or not, there are millions of viruses dying inside of me right now, millions of disease-causing bacteria. My immune system is suppressing them. That is, the element of this struggle for life is certainly present within our lives. But we are people, we are conscious beings, and we have the right to choose. In general, the question of morality, the question of a clean conscience, arises only at those moments when there is a choice. If I have no choice, then there is no question. For example, if a wolf is chasing a hare, which of these participants is good and which is bad? We cannot really say that the wolf is bad, though perhaps we were taught by children's cartoons that the wolf is bad and the hare is good. But this is not so. They are both, in fact, just acting according to their nature. But we are people, and we have the right to choose. We are not just predators, pure and simple. That is why we are able to, for example, eat or live consciously. That is, we have a choice. And that is why this lecture is happening right now, because I had the options to choose from. So that is what harm is. The second question, besides nutrition, is how to protect yourself if you follow the principle of AHIMSA, that is, not causing harm. Often the principle of AHIMSA is confused with the principle of nonviolence, and this is not entirely correct. Nonviolence means that in the face of any aggression in your direction, you accept it, raise your hands, saying, "I can't do anything about this." After all, yoga does not support violence. But the most important thing to understand here is that in yoga, intent is the key factor. That is, when you fight evil, let's say for example an enemy has come to your country and wants to conquer it, or your house is broken into by a thief who wants to rob or harm you, then your wish, your decision in these circumstances should be to try and stop these actions. That is, AHIMSA is not only not causing harm yourself, but also to stop others causing harm. For example, if you practice yoga and you are a man, then it is good to stand up for yourself and for your family. This is important. There is no such thing as justifying one's weakness based on principle. So if some kind of trouble comes into your home and you think, well, I practice nonviolence, so what? It doesn't change a person, especially a hostile one. So he will simply say, "Ha, what's the difference? This is even better for me." Therefore, it is important to be strong. It is important to develop yourself comprehensively. And it is important to stand up for yourself. And to stand up for the honor of your country, your family, and yourself. This is not a violation of the principle of AHIMSA. And what should you do with mosquitoes, flies, cockroaches, and so on? Would their destruction be a violation of AHIMSA? No, it wouldn't, because these are the natural enemies of man, and their existence in your environment is detrimental. If a wasp hive appears in your home, the wasps are not going to spare you. They will outlive you because they want that space. The aforementioned mice and mosquitoes are also a threat to human life, so there is no valor in keeping them alive, and then saying, I practice non-violence, therefore my life has no worth. No, we need to look after our lives and the lives of our loved ones. Therefore, it is necessary to drive out these natural enemies from your dwelling by any means. It is preferable, of course, if possible, not to kill them. But if impossible, then you do have to kill them, because otherwise they kill you. There is a struggle happening. But at the same time, if it is possible to expel them bloodlessly, maybe some kind of noisemaker that scares away mice, then you can use that. Ahimsa is the non-infliction of harm by word, thought, or action. Now, how do we practice and develop this principle? We often do harm to people through words, thoughts, or actions in a moment of anger or hatred. Now, how do we distinguish this state of anger from a state of love? For example, when you are bringing up a child, this is a necessary process which often causes discomfort. That is, the child tries to express itself, tries to do something, but we understand that it is disharmonious. Let's say he plays video games for 12 hours a day. We see that this most likely will not contribute to the child's comprehensive development, and we need to do something. Maybe go to the park with him, develop a hobby, that is, to create some sort of comprehensive development. He may not understand it at first and refuse. For example, there are many things that I hadn't realized in my childhood. Such was my experience. Though I am, of course, now a vegetarian, nevertheless, my dad did take me fishing out on the sea ice. We lived in Vladivostok, and this was a great difficulty for me, as I had been a very quiet, shut-in child since childhood, and a fan of video games. And I had to get up at 4 a.m. to go out into the cold with this huge fur coat, and then sit out there on the ice floes. It was -20 and the wind was blowing me away. Only later, as a man, did I really understand how important that was, this moment of overcoming. Maybe fishing was not the best option from the yogic point of view, but in terms of overcoming yourself, it is very good. But I was a kid and had no choice. But now I feel very grateful for this experience. After you face this challenge, you feel like you can say, now I could climb a mountain. We also went mushroom picking, 20 kilometers away on foot. So in general, I had such moments, and I did not understand them as a child. And there was a certain violence in this, but now I am grateful for it. But at the same time, there must be this state of love. I don't do it because I hate it, but because I love it. And the difference is that hate implies an intense need. At this time, you cannot keep quiet. You cannot not act, otherwise you are imbued with this emotion, and it forces you to act. For example, if someone didn't wash their plate, you just break and go, oh, why do you keep doing this? What's wrong with you? And so on. But you are a yogi, and now you are losing control. And here's another example. You come to an asana class. Here too, you can come to it with feelings of either love or of hatred. From feelings of hatred, there will be thoughts like, damn these wooden limbs, how many times do I have to do this? My legs won't bend, I hate them. This is you not loving your body and directing your anger towards it. and this brings trauma and negativity. And we should learn to act out of love. Out of love, you will look at your body and admit, yes, this is my level right now, but there is no limit to perfection, and you strive to grow, develop, and love. And this is also the same in relationships with people. You can see now that I'm internally calm. If you make some mistake, it doesn't annoy me. I don't feel arrogance in regards to you, I don't feel hatred. This does not annoy me. But I do feel that it would be good for you if I could somehow convey this idea to you. And then you start to, out of love, attempt to gently convey this somehow. And then the person listens. They sense that you are not trying to assert yourself at their expense. Because hatred is always connected with this idea that I am better, I am above this, that you are so lowly. And this always creates a conflict. Why are brothers always fighting? Because one is trying to prove that he is older and more important and in charge. Therefore, he does this not out of love, but out of this feeling that to make myself feel good, I have to make you feel that you are wrong. Therefore, in practice, AHIMSA is first and foremost about controlling yourself. That is, to strive to be aware, at least after the fact, to perform some kind of reflection, self-awareness. So, if today you did something out of hatred and you didn't realize that you had, and then 6 hours later you realize, oh, I did something wrong. Then you go to meditate, but you can't, because your conscience is tormenting you. But then, as you develop this skill, you will know within a minute after you have committed such an act. And then you will feel it a moment before the act. And then you will be able to stop yourself a second before the action. So if someone is yelling at you at the store, you can think to yourself, oh, this is a chance to practice AHIMSA. And so you act in a different way. You might say, oh, alright, sorry about that, and smile back. And maybe that person was yelled at in return by the past 100 people. And in this environment, they don't even realize they're doing something bad. But because you reacted otherwise, this will break the template, and they will realize, oh, why am I shouting at everyone? Maybe this is the start of a new life for them. Who knows? Therefore, self-awareness is very important. That is, preferably before going to bed, you should think over your day. Or you start to meditate, and this is already part of the meditation process. You meditate and you think, oh, I should not have done that. And then that's it. The meditation is over, and you call someone up, apologizing, saying, I'm sorry, I did something wrong. After you've apologized, you feel relieved. That is, your conscience, a very important factor, has become clear. And the second point is how to control your thoughts, how to control your words. What you are filled with at the moment of conflict is what will pour out of you. That is, a person is like a jar. If you bump them, whatever is inside pours out. Therefore, it is important not only to not try and spill over whatever it is inside you, but also to fill yourself up with positive energy. Then you can spill over as much as you want. So if a person is filled with positivity, if they are joyful and happy, then if someone were to bump them, they would say, oh, sorry, are you alright there? So with your positive emotions, you can calm whoever accidentally bumped into you. It is probably an uncomfortable moment for them too. So it is important to practice those things that fill you with positive energy. This can be meditation or prayer or what have you, some sort of training. The key point is that whatever is inside will come out. So let us practice AHIMSA. Let us try to live in such a way that the largest possible number of people and animals and plants around us are happy and grateful that you are there for them. So if we are unable to not bring harm to this world, we must, for example, feed. But everything from rice to cucumbers is alive, as was the cow before we ate it. So what exactly are we then supposed to feed on? Yoga gives us two ideas to solve this. The first idea is that we should feed on the least developed living things possible. So what is developed in a yogic sense? Development is the degree of consciousness within this living thing. So you can't really communicate with a cucumber or a cactus, but it is obvious that they are alive, that they try to reach the sun, that they grow, that they are alive. But we see no consciousness within this. There is no real way to interact with them. I once heard this story from a foreign scientist, I believe it was, about a type of cactus. They had managed to create such a connection with this cactus, such an empathy, that it got rid of its needles. So there was this principle of fearlessness, of trust. And then I heard that the home of this scientist was turned into a museum, and as a result, people would now start coming into this house and would presumably touch this cactus, and in the end, it brought its needles back up. So it is technically possible for some sort of communication with a plant, but it is not at the same level. Even if we take insects, and they too are a very basic sort of life, but they can react to us in an obvious way. We cannot find any emotion in them, or anything of the sort. Insects do not have such things. And then we have reptiles. They are a level above. Then you have birds and animals that are all around us. Take a cat, for example. A cat has many of the emotions that we can see inside of ourselves. So we call them our little ones, because we can see ourselves in them. So this is a basic gradation of development. Something like plants, fungi, insects, animals, mammals, up to the most developed, like dolphins, then monkeys, chimpanzees, for instance, dogs, cows. So these animals have very deep emotions. Taking the cow, for example, a mother cow feeds and loves its calves. These are the same, I think, though I myself am not a mother. These feel like the same emotions that a human mother shows towards her child, whom she looks after and loves. So too does a cow care for its child in the same way. So we, of course, have the right and ability to choose, and we can make that decision. We can choose to feed on less developed organisms out of those available. Of course, if you are stuck on a deserted island, or you are very far north, then you do not have a lot of choice, and you should not harm yourself. But if you are not wanting, then it is better to gradually transform your diet so that it brought less and less harm to more and more developed organisms. That is, it didn't stop their progress. So when we have such a principle, we need to think 1,000 times before incorporating an animal into your diet. So you need to really think about whether you really need to do this.